Yo, thank you for coming on the show. You already know.
Thanks for having me, man.
Adam, thank you for co-hosting.
Of course. I'm excited. The first podcast for me to be on.
First of many.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I got my Dominican brother right here, you know what I'm saying? Straight out of NYC, living in the Florida lifestyle.
Yeah.
Says he hates it in New York City nowadays.
It's a strong word, but
You know what I'm saying? You don't really want to, like...
That's that New Yorker, man. You live in New York for a while, you start to hate it, but you're going to come back. People love it.
it's a possibility. I think once you've kind of ventured out and you've tasted other types of luxuries, it all comes back to like your values, right? What do you value? And if you value space and privacy, then New York probably isn't the best place for that. If you value nightlife and networking and endless possibilities, then you might want to stay in the city for a little longer.
So, Richard, you already trying to spit bars? Like, we just started, bro. Hold on.
What I do, man?
All right, can you share with the audience some of your personal journey, where you are now, what are you doing? I know you're a financial advisor out there in Florida, advising people with the monies,
Yeah.
How to make more money, how to, speak.
So originally I was born and raised in the Bronx. While I was going through the school system, we moved around a lot. By the time that I hit Baruch in 2011, I lived in all 5 boroughs twice. Then from there I ventured out, and after I graduated, I ended up in sales just because I was always bad at sales and I always stuttered. So my thing was, well, what am I really bad at and what do I need as an entrepreneur to succeed? And there's no entrepreneurship that's ever succeeded that can't sell. It's just not a thing. If you can't sell, you're really just an employee. No matter what your craft is, right? So I'm like, well, if I want to be this entrepreneur that I want to become, I need to learn to speak and sell. And at the time, I knew neither. Right? I knew the concept of entrepreneurship because that's what I studied. Like, that was my degree, was entrepreneurship and finance. And I understood people because of my minor in psychology. And I'm like, well, I don't have the skills, the hard skills that I need as an entrepreneur. And I was fortunate enough to recognize that. So my boy Doug got me a job at Yelp. That's going to be for a different story. But that's kind of where I began my journey as, okay, well, where do I go from here and where do I want my life to go? Because we all have it planned out up until college. We graduate and we're like, now what? Right? So that's going to be a story for another day. But as far as like where I come from and why how I kind of ended up here, born and raised in the Bronx to a single mom. I'm one of 5, but my brother and sister and I are just from my mom's side. So she kind of like raised us, and growing up in the Bronx to a single mom of 3 in the late 90s, we didn't have the best conditions. And at that point I began to realize, okay, well, like this money thing is a thing, because every time that I ask for something, there's no money. There's no money for that. So I'm like, well, what's this money? Like, what is this? And it got to a point where I was able to make the connection is the more money you have, the more you can buy things, right? And for some reason, I was always really generous. So I got beat once because like every night I used to go in my mom's purse and take $1, and then I'll go to the deli the next day and buy a bunch of like Nutter Butters and shit, and I would just buy like 4 or 5 of them and I just like give them out to like my friends. Because to me it felt good to give.
You were like a real life Robin Hood.
Yeah, so I'm mad that Robin actually uses the name Robin Hood because that's what I wanted from my LLC. But I love them and I love the mission that they're on, so I'm a strong supporter of Robin Hood. That being said, as I got older, I'm like, okay, well, if I want my own thing, my own snacks, because I was fat growing up, so I love to eat. And my mom would always say no to snacks. So my first job was at 13. I was delivering like handing out flyers. I would go to like Marble Hill projects, hand out flyers. I would go up like Bailey and hand out flyers for this pizzeria that was in Kingsbridge. It was $2 an hour at the time, but I got free pizza at the end of my shift. You know?
$2 an hour?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, 13.
I mean, I'm 13. The dude just hooked me up with some pizza and a few bucks. I would work. I mean, dude, I would walk from Kingsbridge to like up to like Dykeman.
How far is that walk?
Clearly not from.
So it's
I ain't from the Bronx. I'm
like
Queens.
it's like 4 train stops. So you're looking at like 5 miles.
Oh man.
Like 5 miles. And some people took them because I was, I guess, a kid, and some didn't for whatever reason. And I normally work anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. Get paid like $12, $13.
Dude, you better been eating $30 worth of pizza, bro. I would have been like,
Bro,
yo, three pies, taking it home.
One free slice, man.
One free slice?
One slice and a free
one pepperoni on
soda.
it?
No toppings.
What?
No toppings.
Oh,
bro.
dude, they fleecing you, bro. I'd be like, give me all the toppings.
I'll never forget this. His name was Peter. Some old Italian dude, man. But again, he hooked me up. I learned the value of a hard-earned dollar. And then from there, I would save up, and I was trying to split it with like my mom. Like, oh mom, I got some money today. You can have 5, and I'll keep the other 5. And she's like, no, yeah, just keep your $5. But she saw the gesture, and I've always been that way, just really giving.
Gestures mean a lot too. You know, I think in households, especially with our new generation, you know, millennials, we have a hard time surviving out there on our own, just because of, you know, education, finding jobs, you know, finding good paying jobs, and then the cost of renting, you know, is expensive. I think in households a lot of times, you know, there's that, like, sometimes parents and, you know, young adults butt heads, but a lot of times it's about showing the gesture. You know, for I think a lot of families, if you show the gesture, something like that,
Yeah.
You know, things kind of go a little bit smoother, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is an abundance of high-paying jobs in the world. I think there's just an abundance of unqualified people. Right. If you have the hard skills, if you're willing to put in the work and the time to master your craft, there's always going to be money out there. And I mean that's proven time and time again, right? But I don't want to say us as millennials because it kind of puts everyone like under this umbrella. But I see a lot of people just want to make 6 figures, but don't want to do 6-figure work. Right. So that's not, again, equal attracts equal. If you want a 6-figure income, you got to meet it with 6-figure work ethic. And that's a disconnect that I see a lot. But going back to my point, at that point in time was when I began to realize what money was and how little of it we had. And I think one of the most pivoting points for me was I was 15, 16, and I was playing basketball. We had moved out to Whitestone, Queens, and I had asked my mom for $2 for a Gatorade. I think it was the 16-ounce Gatorades. And she's like, oh, she went off. She's like, oh, you do ask for money, blah, 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 blah. And she just kind of ripped it. I'm like, damn, I never asked her for $1, ever, since then. I mean, $2. And maybe she had a bad morning, whatever the case was, man, but it shed a light on where I need to be at. And it's just to not ask my mom for money because I just didn't want to go through that shit again. So I got a job at a deli after that, making $5 an hour. And it was only on Sundays putting newspapers. Like, so the Sunday paper comes in like all in different parts, and somebody has to put in the coupons and stuff, all the stuff that comes in the Sunday paper. And I was that guy for a little bit.
For all those young kids out there, newspapers where we used to get our news and information from, all right?
It's put on paper.
Yeah, people used to actually buy those things.
And then your hands turn black when you read it. So, long story short, man, at that point was when I said, well, I gotta make my own money. So I worked at the deli for a little bit, and from there did Rite Aid, or it was called Eckerd still back then. Did that for a little while, and then ended up, you know, she kicked me out. I ended up in Long Island. And that's kind of where the struggle started for me. Got into Beirut despite the challenges, kicked me out again. Then I kind of lived on my friend's floor for a few months until I found an apartment up in Brooklyn. And I think just those 2 years, man, kind of lit the fire that I still live on and thrive on till this day. Because when you have nowhere to go and no one's willing to open a door for you, you realize how lonely you really are in this world and how much you have to make sure that you are good first. And I think that a lot of us are put in that situation where no one's looking out for us, so we have to look out for ourselves, that we only look out for ourselves and we forget to look out for others. And that's where we are as a generation. So I really do believe, going back to what we spoke off camera about, is I firmly believe that millennials could be the greatest generation to ever live on this planet. We can literally pivot the entire future of this world if we look out for each other, but we don't. We don't. All we do is attack each other, and we short sell each other. We scam each other. You know, we sell people courses that we know don't work. We mislead people for a quick profit, and we're cutting ourselves at the knee, man. and to no avail. I mean, it's a zero-sum game. Like, nobody wins.
Yeah, it's hard because, like, as a community, like, when you look around New York City, it's honestly, all this was forced. It's incredible to see what has transpired over the past few centuries, and none of this would be possible if we didn't work together. We wouldn't be sitting here at this table. These cameras wouldn't exist. Like everything that exists in your surroundings are there because we work together as people, to produce it, make things happen, make life easier for everybody else. And that's what it is. That's what technology really is.
Right.
It's making your everyday life easier. It's making everybody's life easier. And all those things come together because people work together and help each other out.
Right. Yeah.
I wanna pivot. I appreciate you telling the backstory, because first of all, I didn't know a lot of that, and I think that a lot of people do face a lot of challenges in their lives. I think especially even, let's say somebody's watching this right now and they're facing a similar situation, I think it's even inspiring, to see somebody who went through a lot of difficult things and then was like, nah, I gotta start grinding,
For sure, yeah.
getting these skills up, whatever I gotta do to make sure I'm right financially, period, right? So maybe with that said, I would love it if you were to talk about some financial rule of thumbs for, let's say, the average person that they may not know, that we spoke about earlier a little bit.
So, one thing that I learned kind of in the beginning of all this was being able to read. All right, and that, if anybody follows like Ty Lopez, that's really my biggest takeaway from that man. I've done a lot of his courses, I've went to some of his conferences, but the biggest takeaway from him that I got was just read. Just having the ability to pick up a book and read it. Because how many people do you guys know read on a daily basis? I know very few. Very few who actually read a book. So, going back to your point, one of these said books was the Richest Man in Babylon.
It's a great book.
Right? And the big takeaway with this book is knowing how to save, being able to budget or categorize or put your money in certain buckets, right? But being disciplined with your income. A lot of us are not disciplined with the income. So one thing that I learned was to pay yourself first. And if you look at any self-made billionaire, millionaire, they follow the same principle. Pay me first, right? Because if you don't have money, American Express isn't gonna come, so, you guys are struggling? Here's a loan, no interest. No one's coming for you. So you have to take care of you first. T-Mobile's not gonna go bankrupt because you don't pay your bill. If you gotta save and not pay them, fuck them. You gotta take care of you. And when you begin to get into that wolf MFer mentality, some people are going to dislike you, right? Because you're stern now, right? And you're prioritizing yourself before you think about these companies, right? But you have to. You have to. Because if you go into business with like some of these people and you don't come in stern with a set vision, clear, with a certain level of clarity of what I want from this, they will literally chew you up and spit you out. And it's nothing to be an asshole, right? But you have to be disciplined. This is what I'm worth, and I'm not going to sacrifice my self-value.
Can you just, for people who don't know what pay yourself first means, you do like a real short description of what it means?
I mean, I'll give you my scenario. At the time I was working security in Herald Square, I was making like $15 an hour. And every pay period that I got, I would take 10% of whatever my income was of that check, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly. You do your gross, right? You do your net, right, after taxes, times 0.10, and that's your 10%. You take that 10% and you save it. And with what's left, you figure out how to live. Most people figure out how to live, and based on what's left before the next paycheck, that's what they save. So it's very unsustainable, because it could be nothing, it could be $1,000, right? So there's really no way to build sustainability with that concept. And as long as you're there, you're tempted to spend it.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not taking care of you first. You're not taking care of home first, because it comes to a point where you become we. Right? So now you're taking care of us, taking care of the household, of the family first. Right? So that same discipline when you're single, doing your thing, being a bachelor, you take that same habit and it continues once you have family, right? So now you're saying, well, I'm paying my family first. The mortgage is going to have to wait. The car payment's going to have to wait, because there's nothing more important than the stability of my family, right? So you learn that discipline early on, and it continues throughout the rest of your life, man. And you pay yourself first, and you figure out how to live with the other 90% of that. And if you got to cut off some expenses, then you cut it off, but you take care of the house first, man.
Yeah, I think, and everybody's financial situation is a little different. I think the biggest thing is when you pay yourself first, as soon as you get that paycheck, it's that building that habit. So even if you can't, say if you like live paycheck to paycheck, you know, even if you do 5%, you know, even if you do like, no matter what your situation is, as long as you can start getting that habit. So when you start making more money, then you can start putting 10% away, you know, and start building that habit, because, you know, we're creatures of habit.
There's no reason why you can't do 10%. If you could put somebody in front of me and tell me, Rich, this is why I can't do 10%, I'd be fucking floored.
And a big part of it comes to budgeting, which maybe that's something
Exactly,
we could
budgeting.
speak on.
And even on budgeting, how important it is for somebody to be tracking their expenses. And not only that, but what are some of the best ways to track your expenses?
So I'm old school. I use Excel. So in my and again, for everyone it's different. There's so many ways to track it. There's so many apps. What I've noticed with my clients is they don't go on the apps. They'll download it, they'll set up the account, but they'll never go into it. They won't categorize their expenses because it's not fully automated, right? So you have a bunch of apps that link to your account, and then you have to go into the app and you have to categorize it, these expenses, based on what your budgets are, right? Whether it's miscellaneous, whether it's home expenses, or maybe you're more detailed and you want it for like cleaning products, and you know, so you have to go into these apps and you have to put in the time to categorize your expenses every single month. So that's one way to do it. How I do it, I have a dry erase board that's in my hallway. It's a calendar, and every day that I swipe my card, I spend money, I just write it down, right? Parking, $10. Gas, $25. Next day, food, $10. Whatever the case is. Clothing, $90. But just everything that I spend that day, I just pass by the hallway. Oh shit, it's here. I just write it down real quick. If it's in my office, I forget. Right, so for everyone it's different. So you have to find what works for you and what's more convenient for you. Because I passed by it in my hallway all the time, I couldn't forget. There was no way to forget. Like, so on the way to like the bedroom, I walked by, oh, I spent $20, let me just put it here, boom, boom. At the end of the month, I've been inconvenient, but I just kind of sat there and I tallied it all up. $100 on gas or $400 on this, and that I would plug into my Excel sheet. So it's like an hour a month. I mean, really, an hour a month. If you can't take that, then you're not ready for money. You're just not, because you're gonna waste it all because you can't track it, right? So people, oh, I mentally track it. No, you don't. No, you fucking don't. There's shit that's hitting your checking account that you don't even know where it's coming from half the time, because the names aren't there. Venmo this, Zelle here, Cash App that. What the fuck was that for? And you don't know.
You know, often people, like, one of the scams are like, where these companies or organizations will charge you just like extra like $5 a month for something. Say, oh, sorry, like it was an accident. So many people don't even catch that because they're not really looking at that financial statement. The thing is, everything, there's so much that's electronic, like you were saying. Like, at the end of the day, you could open up your app. Like if you have Bank of America, you can open up and see, oh, these are all the things I bought today. You know, if you're not constantly looking at that, you very easily can, you know, fall into one of those scams, which doesn't seem like a lot, but one, that's $5. Was it even if it's every month? You know, over time, you know, that's one, you're losing $5 every month. Two, what could have that $5 every month done for you? You know, could that have made more money for you?
I think that so many of us try and worry about things that are out of our control, that we're not focused enough on what we can control, right? So in that case, yeah, a lot of us don't track our expenses because it's not sexy and it's not fun. You feel me? And I don't blame them. It's not, but it's essential. Like if you really want to have money, you got to see where your money's going. Because if you're leaking money now, you're just gonna leak more later, right? So when it comes to budgeting, I think it's fundamental. But it's so boring.
Okay, so yeah, I think, and it's very simple to do. at this point in day and age, we all have Google. You can literally just type in budgeting and find thousands of articles online. And most of them are going to tell you the same thing. Like, it's very general practices.
Yes, but none of them do the budgeting for you.
Yes.
That's manual labor, and we don't like that shit. It's uncomfortable.
So, question. Apart from budgeting, what are your thoughts, like, for example, for the common person? I know we were talking about this earlier. What's the percentage of your income should be applied to housing, renting, or having a car, or other things that most people have on their day basis?
So, a good rule of thumb for like credit cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, consumer debt shouldn't be more than like 18%. And that's just credit card, student loans, debt, overall debt.
When you say consumer debt, you're talking about the person's individual debt.
Correct. And now, just off topic, with this car thing that we spoke about, good rule of thumb. You can be below or you can be above it. A good rule of thumb is your car payments should be 10% or less of your monthly income.
And this is net. This is after taxes.
Net after taxes. Nobody follows that. Nobody follows that because we want to live above our means because people see it. Mm. Like, I don't want people to know that I'm broke, so I'm gonna get a Mustang. So they don't know I'm broke. It looks like I'm good, but I'm 50% of my income is going towards a car. That's depreciating on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Right. So it's again being comfortable and confident enough to not need to build that facade. Like if I walked in here in my underwear, I'd be good. Yo, what's up, guys? I don't wear name brands. You look at me and you can't tell me what brands I'm wearing because I make sure that I hide them. Because I don't need the glamour. I don't need the attention. So I think that once we get comfortable in our skins, to not need that hit of like serotonin from brands, I think that's when we begin to unlink from these brands, from these expenses, from this facade. I mean, fucking Grant Cardone drove a damn Camry, bro, a Camry with $1 million cash in his bank account. Most of us don't have that discipline. We don't.
So what I'm hearing first is, in essence, focusing on personal growth, if anything, if you're having that issue of that big need of like impressing others, handling that, because if you don't really handle that, you're always going to be living your life and your expenses are all going to be about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on also the importance of having a financial goal, being very clear on that before you even, let's say, budgeting or paying yourself first? What are your thoughts on that? Any insights?
Well, so when you say financial goal, like, can you give me an example?
Okay, like for example, by 30, I want to be earning this much.
Okay.
Or I want to have this much in my bank account because I want to be living here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so, which is fine, super fine. How are you gonna do it? Nobody has an answer.
Oh, I got an answer. But I'm not.
Right? It's like, oh, Rich, I want a Lambo, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm like, well, how much does a Lambo cost? Oh, it costs like $250 on a monthly basis. How much does it cost? What's the insurance on it? Right? What's maintenance? How much is it? How much is a fucking oil change? And they can't tell you. Right? Like I was looking up numbers for like a Koenigsegg. Did you know that the monthly payment on a Koenigsegg is $57,000 a month?
On a what?
On a Koenigsegg?
The payment.
Koenigsegg?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a type of car?
Bro, you're embarrassing.
Is that a
me right
spaceship?
I don't know what that I don't know what that is. A Koenigsegg?
A Koenigsegg.
A Koenigsegg.
They're a Swedish exotic supercar manufacturer.
Bro,
How much is each tire for that thing? That's the thing. Like all these pieces, all the maintenance, people don't take that into consideration.
So they have these dreams, and I would never knock a person's dream, no matter how crazy it sounds. But what are the numbers? Like because we're very numbers oriented. Show the camera so that people can know what.
I'll put it up.
We'll put it up in the editing.
Okay.
Let me see this. Let me see. Oh man.
That looked like a car straight out of Gran Turismo.
I don't think Gran Turismo has those, but there's only like they were saying that the chance of you ever seeing one is 1 in 50 million. Like you're more likely to get hit by thunder than you are to see it. Koenigsegg in the street.
Bruh, that's crazy.
Right, and they normally resell for like 1.8, 2.5. So there's supercars essentially up there with like Bugattis and whatnot. But if that's really your dream, you should know the numbers, right? Because that's what you're gonna have to pay.
And that's gonna be, so once you're clear on the numbers, you're gonna have that extra motivation because you're clear on that to work towards that.
Right. So now you have the clarity. Okay, well, this is not, now you have a number to chase, right? So if you take that number and you take a rule of thumb, that should be 10%. Now you know exactly how much you need to make or you should make a month if you really want to have that car, right? So if you take my rule of thumb and you apply it to a car like the Koenigsegg, right, it's 50 grand a month. If you want that to be 10%, you better be making 500,000 a month, right? Technically.
Mm-hmm.
Most people may not follow that, but good rule of thumb is that. Because 10% of your income should not hurt. People struggle to pay their car bills.
I do.
Right? So if you have dreams, cool, fine. The bigger the better. Fucking shoot for the stars. But have a plan and know the numbers. Otherwise, you're just swinging the fucking bat in the dark. I want to hit a home run. I have no idea where the fucking ball's coming from. I'm just gonna swing this shit. And I think a lot of us just lack that clarity. All right, I mean, let's make it more feasible, I guess. A Lambo, right? A Lambo's monthly payments are about $4,000 a month, right? Now you can take an insurance, maintenance, and you put a number on that. Put a number on that, right? And if you could find a way to make 50 to 40 grand a month, which I know plenty of dudes doing that, younger than all of us, it's feasible. But without that number, it's just a dream, it's a vision, right? But we are very goal-oriented, and we need a target. Saying a Lamborghini, that's not a target. Because you having that target doesn't actually get you to acquire that Lambo. It's having the funds to fund it. So as far as goals, that's my thing. Have goals, big goals, and be ambitious. I love it. But be wise about how you approach it. Have the numbers. Know your numbers, man. Know your numbers. And people pay me to know their numbers. It's crazy.
What do you feel works personally for you better as far as generating income? Is it identifying that number you want to get to, or is it focusing mostly on your process, or maybe a combination of both?
So one thing that I took away from Tony Robbins, and I'll send you guys the link to the book, but it's Money Master the Game. It's a big old book, and he has this test that he does with his clients where he'll ask them, tell me your most elusive vision, like everything you could ever want, what would that look like? And people said jets and yachts and cars and mansions and all that. And he said, okay, great. Now, find the numbers, right? And they went online, they're like, okay, well, a monthly payment for a yacht is this, for a Lambo is that, for a mansion, well, how big is this mansion? How much are you gonna spend on this mansion, right? Find the monthly payments. And they kind of broke it all down. And then he asked, how realistic do you think these goals are? And I think like one of them out of 100 said yes. Like, this is realistic. So he began to do the numbers, right? And there was one kid whose like overall vision was like $100 million that he needed. And he broke it down and he said, well, what if I told you that you only needed to make like $7 million invested at this rate, and that will give you the lifestyle that you thought cost $100 million. The kid was like, how? Like, how's that possible? Right? So we have these visions without having the actual number. So he thought that his vision, his dream life cost $100 million. But with $7 million that he had made and invested it, I think it was like at 8%, the residuals of that would have paid for his dream life. So without having the numbers, it's just a fantasy. And for me personally, once because I took that same approach, and for me, for what I want, my ideal life, I'm low maintenance for the most part, is with 20 grand a month, I could have everything that I personally want. And when you put a number like that on a monthly basis, not annually, that lights a whole new fire under you, because that's super feasible. I mean, 20 grand a month, you're looking at shy of $250,000 a month. I mean, a year. And there's a lot of people making that kind of money. A lot of people. So for me, that approach works for me better than any other approach I've ever had.
I actually read that book twice. And the second time I read it, I took thorough notes on it. And I literally have a Google Doc of like
Notes.
20 pages straight out of that book.
Yeah.
I loved it. I liked how he broke down. That's the financial freedom version, right? The biggest dreams, all of that. Then you have financial independence, and that's a whole nother goal of like, okay.
Then you have financial vitality, financial scarcity, and then there was the initial one, the smallest one, but we're big thinkers here, so we're gonna look at that. But financial freedom is essentially the goal, right? And when people say, well, Rich, what do you do? Like, I empower people to find their financial freedom, right? So an advisor is nothing but someone that makes they essentially link what your fantasies are with how to get there financially, right? And sometimes we either have to bring that vision down a little bit more, or we have to increase the cash flows to get you there, right? But that's all we do. We just make dreams come to life. But it requires money. So that's really all that advisors do.
So you mentioned about all of these people that you know making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month that are younger than us. And I know you mentioned previous to us recording the importance of forming an inner circle.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? What are your thoughts on that? How can the person approach that to like forming, let's say, an inner circle of like millionaires and things of that nature? So
my experience with that, and you can call it luck, you can call it when opportunity meets preparation. I mean, there's so many ways to coat this. But what happened in my case was I used to work out with this guy, a good friend of mine named Frankie, and he put me in touch with one of his boys that apparently was 23 years old. He was 23 and retired. I'm like, dude, that's dope, man. And granted, yeah, I'm much older, but I'll learn from anybody. Like, if you got something that I can learn, if you're 15, I'm gonna listen to you. So we linked up with Justin, and Justin was doing like really good for himself, young guy, super humble, super nice, and we just kind of linked up, right? Because again, equal attracts equal. It's a law of life, man. If you're a good person, you're gonna attract good people by nature. So he and I just linked up, man, and now we're really good friends. He has access to an inner circle, young individuals, extremely wealthy, really hardworking, and he, fortunately enough for me, introduced me to this group of people. It just so happens to be that I was able to connect with them as well, right? Because similar minds attract. And when we began to speak numbers, and I was hitting them, with my knowledge, really, they were like, "Oh, Rich, I'm gonna put you in touch with some deals that I'm working on, or I'm gonna introduce you to these guys." Oh, Rich, I ever thought about this investment? And they began to open these doors for me that I never knew existed. New money. Not fast money, but new money, ways that generations before us had no way to monetize those channels because they never existed. And even for me, I'm 29 now. When I was in college, those streams were not there either. So this is just, as times change, they are in the forefront of social media platforms, technology. They're just more into it. Bitcoin came out, I think my senior year was when Bitcoin got launched, or that I heard about it at least. Now we have 15-year-olds that are millionaires because of crypto. You know what I'm saying? So they are they're growing up with this technology, where we adopted it at its infancy, essentially. Right? So we just clicked, man. And again, I had no idea what they made or what they did, but we just connected on life, relationships, partnerships, business, money, and we just thought the same. And slowly but surely, they opened up these doors to me, and they welcomed me into what they call their money inner circle, essentially. And once I found out how vast their network was, I'm not gonna say names, but there's people that they work with that you guys definitely know. I've said it. since we've met and I've mentioned their work and you guys know them, and these guys run their platforms, big names, huge. And I didn't know that. Again, so it's just, I just connected with these really cool guys who ended up, they manage probably 80 to 90% of the social media platforms out there.
Oh, really?
And social media accounts of all these celebrities and big names, and that wasn't the route that I wanted to go. It was cool, but I think what changed my perspective a lot was why they opened up these doors for me and how welcoming they were. They tried doing dinner before I flew up here, and because I couldn't make it, they canceled it. So I'm not at their level yet, but the fact that they're so willing to mentor me, being younger than me too. So it's a few things are going on here. One, me being older, I need to be humble enough to accept knowledge and education from younger people, right? A lot of people that are in their 30s, they're too arrogant. And because of their arrogance, they become ignorant. And ignorant people stay broke. So I have to humble myself enough to understand that I don't know everything, and that's okay. And they had to be humble enough to let somebody into their circle that wasn't at their level just yet. Right? So there's a lot of things that are going on in this relationship, and they opened these channels to me, and I was just mind blown at how quick these guys were just able to amass their wealth. I mean, 2 years went from $50,000 to $2 million a year in 2 years. I mean, that's impressive for any 25-year-old. And they're not exceptions. Like, they've done it for other people over and over and over again. So when they let me in, again, they didn't know what I did. I had no idea what they did, but nonetheless, they let me in because we were in sync. Right? And just how we speak about money, how we approach it, is something that's never taught in our education system. It never is. And I'm not going to get into education because that's a whole spiel and scam within itself. But I think I kind of make my point with school. And nothing that they do, and by the way, they're all dropouts, and they just have this understanding of wealth and knowledge and networking that we're just never taught. So if people want to get rich, the fastest way to get rich is to find mentors. Because they've done it. You're here trying to fucking recreate this damn journal when somebody out there has the template for it. You're like, no, I got it, bro. I got this. I'm going to make a great journal. You watch. I'm like, bro, but I'm giving you the template, the process. I'm giving you my wholesalers, my contacts. I'm telling you how to do it. No, bro, I'm good, bro. I'm going to do it. And that's most of us, right? If you want to shorten that learning curve, like, yo, thank you for the template, bro. You make it and you find a way to pay them back, whether it's in loyalty, hard work, reciprocity.
It's interesting. Joel over here sent me a video. Always send your friends videos of interesting educational things you find online. But you sent me the interview with Bob Proctor, right? And one of the things he said, he spoke about mentorship. He was like, one of the things I do with a mentor is whenever I, take on a mentor, I completely I listen to everything they say. I do whatever they tell me to do. And, I give them the opportunity to show me that they don't know what they're talking about,
Right.
And a lot of us have a hard time just, kind of giving somebody that power or like just letting that go. So I want to ask also, like, what makes a good mentor when people are looking for mentors?
I think that's a really good question, man. That's a really good question because you don't want to be mentored by the wrong person, right? And my biggest advice when it comes to mentors is you don't have to take everything from them. It's not a copy and paste system. It's, well, I like this, I like that. So you can copy certain features, but doesn't mean that you have to become the person. Now, what do you look for in a mentor? Well, you look at their lifestyle, right? Would you trade places with them? And if you wouldn't, then it's probably not a good mentor for you, right? It's, well, what do they do? Where are they? And is their current position something that I would want for myself in the future? And if the answer is no, probably shouldn't pick them as a mentor. Now, if there's one attribute that they have that you admire, that you find useful, then that's what you attack. So, for example, there's this lady in my office right now. Her name is Jane. She is the most articulate human I've ever seen. Maybe after Obama, but I mean, she is poised. She's articulate. She's funny, right? And she's an insurance professional. And just she speaks like the home shuts up. I mean, maybe because she's Canadian, has a nice accent, but she's so eloquent in like her delivery. Just walking by, not selling us anything, just saying good morning. You know, and that's something that I admire from her. So every now and again, I just say, hey, and like we just go in and I ask her, Jane, so how do I speak in this situation? And then how should I address this? How should I say this? And I just, from her, that's what I'm trying to learn. So she's my mentor when it comes to speech, for example. So have many mentors, don't have one. I mean, I have probably 7 or 8. You know, so I have I have one for being a better father. I have a mentor for finance. I have a mentor for real estate, right? And then these guys, I guess, they're gonna be my mentors in generating streams of income.
So I know you you were saying that you have quite a few different mentors to pick and choose, different attributes you really like from them. One of the things that we were talking about earlier also was being able to say no, which is not taking on too many things. So how do you kind of make sure you organize all that? Because meeting with all those different people, that takes time. You have your, own things going on. And then when is taking on too much? And when are you at the point of taking on too much?
Yeah, so my biggest flaw as an entrepreneur was that, just taking on too much. And the issue with that is you don't give anything enough attention and everything falls apart, right? So this concept of multitasking is bullshit. The more you multitask, the weaker you are. Because if you're multitasking between your designer brand and school and being a good wife, and a motherfucker like me comes into the industry, you're my lunch. Like, not even, like, you're my lunch. I'm going to destroy you. Because I'm giving my business 100% or 80%. And you're giving it 35 or 40. So don't multitask, don't juggle. Focus on some shit. You knock it the fuck out. Like, knock it out. Like, smash its mouth in type. Right? And then you move on to the next.
Yeah, that's the Bronx mentality, man.
It's like, what, look at my girl, bro? It's like, at that moment, you don't care who's parking, who's yelling at you. That's your, look at my girl, bro, what's up? And you ain't thinking about nothing else, you're focused, right? And if you want to put that on a less comical stand and more business like oriented, when you focus on an object, you see things that maybe you would have missed if you're multitasking, right? So when it comes down to, okay, well, what am I going to do and what do I want for myself? What lifestyle do I want? What kind of income do I want and what legacy do I want to leave? If things come into your vision that don't feed into those molds, then you should say no. Oh, Rich, but short term, it could leave some money. That's a short term distraction.
I think that, I don't know who I got this from, but it was this person who said, I think it was Ty Lopez, and I think it was that conference we went to, where, I don't know if it was him, but when you're driving in a car,
Oh, the mirror thing?
oh no, like let's say you're driving in a car, and you're just going. You don't really pay attention to how many parking spots are around you and you're passing. But when you're looking for a parking spot, you start seeing everything. You start seeing cars that are about to leave. You start seeing all the little differences in detail. So that comes down to the whole what's your intentional focus. You know, because if you're trying to do too many things, you're not gonna spot the small things that are geared towards what you want to be doing.
That's good. That's a good analogy.
So another one that I got from Ty Lopez is so in New York we all enter a garage, right? Because it's hard to find parking, so sometimes you have to go into like a garage to park. And if you drive in New York and you ever gotten into a garage, the space to enter is relatively small, right? So you don't have a lot of like wiggle room. So notice how every time that you're trying to pass a narrow stretch, you focus on one side of the car or another, right? And you say, well, I'm gonna get this side as close as possible to get into this gap. You don't look at both sides. You don't focus on the guy behind you, the coffee cup that's in the holder. you focus on this mirror and make sure that this mirror is as close as possible, not scratching the wall, to make sure that the other side fits. And when this is happening is, this side has more than enough space. How you try to focus on both, you would have probably scratched the mirror of the car. And I saw that same analogy was in Spain. I went to go visit my sister, and we went to this old town called Toledo, right? Really old school. They have the castles and the brakes still, and nothing's been like renovated. But there's a stretch where we have to go downhill, and it's really, really narrow. And my family and I were walking up this hill, and dude, every car that came down scraped the mirrors on both sides. Audis, BMWs, bro, you name it, they scratched the mirrors up. And also was this. So I'm like, okay, well, because we had to go down the same road. I'm like, shit. And I was driving because it was stick, and I'm the only one that drives stick in my family. So I pull up, and I'm in a damn minivan, bro, because there's like 8 of us. So I pull up, and I'm like, okay, I got this. So I got as close as possible to the left, right? And I went down probably about twice as fast as everybody else, but I didn't worry about that side. Because if I'm as close as possible on this side, and I'm touching on that side, then the car physically doesn't fit. But I focused on this one side, got as close as possible, but it was smooth. It was smooth, because I focused on one point of reference. So when people take on too much, they're doing a nonprofit, you know, they're doing fucking modeling on the side. Meanwhile, while you're doing modeling part-time, somebody else is doing it full-time. So the issue with juggling is that you will always be outworked. Always.
Yo, my guy, my fellow Dominican Baruchian, you heard? Thank you.
You definitely made that up.
Thanks for coming on the show. You already know, spend that knowledge, those financial gems. Talk to the artists, whatever you want to plug in, you know, where can we find you, all of that.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Rich_Reyes. And if you guys have any questions, maybe things that we didn't cover, any curiosities, or maybe you guys are looking for some mentors, just hit me up on the gram, and I'll be happy to kind of guide you guys into that. My personal inner circle is just, they created this brand new program. It's not for everyone, so there's some vetting involved. I don't want to open that up to everyone, but if you really are serious about meeting some young, wealthy individuals, hit me up, and I'll be happy to connect you guys. Until then, add me on the gram, Rich_Reyes, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
The format is real sickness, contagious. Here I come, Jay-Z. There you go, there you go.
How we get down,
The format is real sickness, contagious. Here I come.